Welcome to my channel. Here are 5 terrifying tales from Haunted Reels, the dark secret of Silver Screen Drive-In. From a haunted projector to a sinister glitch in an old reel, these stories will leave you questioning what lurks behind the silver screen. First up, cursed cinema. Mia and Ethan decided to spend a night in the Mojave watching old horror movies at a drive-in theater. But they soon realized that the theater was haunted by the ghost of a little girl who was brutally murdered in the backseat of a car just like theirs. As the night went on, the couple experienced terrifying events that made them question their sanity. Next, we have a story about a haunted projector. It all started when a group of friends decided to watch a horror movie on an old projector. But as soon as the movie started, strange things began to happen. The friends soon discovered that the projector was haunted by the ghost of a former projectionist who was killed in a freak accident. Then there's the story of a group of filmmakers who found a vintage reel in an antique shop. They were excited to use it in their latest project, but they soon realized that the reel was cursed. As soon as they started playing it, they were trapped in a horrifying world that seemed all too real. If you think your local cinema is scary, wait till you see what's in store at Silver Screen Drive-In. A dilapidated old drive-in that has been abandoned for years. It's the perfect place for a date night with your significant other, or so you think. Welcome back, I'm here. And today we are going to be exploring another 5 haunted reels from the archives of horrifying cinema. So buckle up as we get ready to go through some of the scariest films ever made. But be careful, because once you watch these movies, you may never be able to escape their terrifying grasp. Our first story today is going to take us to California, where we will be visiting a condemned drive-in theater that hasn't shown a movie since 1982. This abandoned building is known as the Silver Screen Drive-In, and it is said to be one of the most haunted places in the country. If you want to learn more about this place, there is an entire documentary dedicated to its history called The Haunting of Silver Screen Drive-In. However, I don't recommend watching it alone at night. The story goes that back in 1978, a fire broke out in the projection booth that would eventually lead to the theater being abandoned just 4 years later. Many believe that the ghost of the projectionist haunts the property, and those who enter after dark never come out the same. After watching the documentary, many people have decided to visit the site themselves, only to find that it is now a huge dump site filled with trash. As one person wrote on Reddit, "I went there last week. It was very creepy. There were no signs or anything prohibiting trespassing, but I didn't stick around long enough to explore further. I can't say for sure whether or not there is something haunting this theater, but I can say that it looks like the perfect setting for a horror movie." Our next story brings us back to the Mojave, where 2 lovers parked at the cursed cinema for a romantic movie night, but it quickly became a fight for survival as they encountered something demonic and deadly. Mia and Ethan had been dating for a few months and things were going well. He was still trying to decide if she was wife material, but he couldn't deny that she was fun to hang out with. And what better way to spend time with her than by taking her to the movies? He asked her if she wanted to go to the new Marvel movie that was playing in town, but she declined the offer. She had just seen the trailer and wasn't impressed. Instead, she suggested they go to the Mojave Drive-In Theater, an abandoned drive-in located 45 miles outside of Barstow. Despite having heard stories about the place, Ethan decided to go along with it. When they arrived at the theater, they noticed that it was surrounded by strange symbols that looked almost alien-like. He tried to make light of the situation and just laughed it off, but his smile faded when he saw the movie that was playing. The film seemed to be a compilation of snuff footage showing torture and murder from all over the world. They both felt uncomfortable and wanted to leave, but their car wouldn't start. When they finally got it running, they sped out of there without even watching the movie. They never told anyone about what they had seen that night, but it haunted their dreams anyway. Soon, they began to see the symbols that they had seen at the theater on walls and bathroom stalls around town. They even found them carved into the bark of trees near their apartment complex. To this day, they still run from whatever entity lurks behind the screen of the Mojave Drive-In Theater. Now let's move on to our next story. You walk into the theater and take your seat. The lights dim and the movie begins. But something isn't right. There's a strange figure lurking behind the projector that seems to be watching you. Could there really be someone hiding in the shadows watching you during your movie? You might think that it's just your imagination playing tricks on you, but what if there's actually someone else in the theater? The thought is enough to send shivers down your spine. Imagine the fear of turning around and seeing a pair of glowing eyes staring back at you from the darkness. We don't often think about what lurks behind the projector when we're watching a movie, but sometimes it's good to remember that there could be more there than meets the eye. If you've ever watched a horror movie, you know that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we can't see. That's why the idea of someone hiding behind the projector and watching you as you watch a movie is so terrifying. It's the unknown, the fact that you can't see what's there that makes it so frightening. We all know that if we turned around and saw a monster behind the projector, it would be too late. The damage would already be done. But what if we never find out what was back there at all? What if we're left to wonder forever? That's what makes this story so terrifying. It's the fact that we may never know what lurks behind the projector. Our next story brings us to a group of friends who decided to stay in a haunted house for a horror movie marathon. What they didn't realize was that the house had a sinister secret. And as the night wore on, they soon realized that they were in grave danger. They gathered around the TV and turned on the first movie. The lights flickered and the old house creaked. They laughed nervously at the cheesy dialogue and jump scares. But as the night went on, the atmosphere in the room began to change. They could have sworn they heard whispers coming from the walls. The temperature dropped and a cold breeze swept through the room. Then they saw it, a figure standing in the doorway. It was tall and thin with long, sharp claws. It took a step forward and they screamed. The creature lunged at them and they ran for their lives. They never looked back to see what was chasing them, but they could hear its heavy footsteps pounding on the floor behind them. They ran until they could feel their lungs burning in their chests. Finally, they burst through the front door and into the night. They never went back to that house again, and they often wondered if the creature was still trapped inside, waiting for its next victims. Our next story is going to take us to the Fox Glacier Cinema, which is considered one of the most haunted buildings in New Zealand. The Fox Glacier Cinema is a historic building that was built in 1923. It's located in the small town of Fox Glacier and has been a popular tourist destination for decades. The cinema is said to be haunted by the ghost of a former projectionist who died in a fire in the 1950s. Visitors have reported hearing strange noises, seeing apparitions, and feeling sudden drops in temperature. Some have even claimed to have seen the ghost of the projectionist himself walking through the cinema or sitting in the projection booth. The Fox Glacier Cinema continues to operate today, and visitors are welcome to explore the building and its history. However, some people believe that the ghost of the projectionist may still linger here, watching over his beloved cinema. Our next story is going to take us to Colorado, where we will meet a young woman named Emily who was looking for a good scare. She had heard about a movie called Snuff that was playing at the Starlight Drive-In, and she was eager to check it out. However, when she arrived at the theater, she noticed something strange. The marquee advertised a different movie, and when she looked closer, she saw that the letters were spelled out in blood. She shrugged it off and decided to go in. When the movie started, Emily realized that it was not what she had expected. Instead of being a cheesy slasher flick, it was a snuff film. The movie was filled with scenes of torture and murder, and Emily felt sick to her stomach. Suddenly, she heard a noise behind her and turned around to see a figure standing in the row of seats behind her. The person was tall and thin and seemed to be made of shadows. Before Emily could react, the figure lunged at her and everything went black. The next morning, Emily's car was found abandoned in the parking lot of the drive-in, but there was no sign of her anywhere. The police searched the area but were unable to locate her. Some believe that Emily was taken by the creature that she saw in the movie, while others believe that she simply ran away. The truth is that no one knows what happened to her, and the Starlight Drive-In remains abandoned to this day. Our next story is going to take us to the Grand Majestic Theater in New York City, where a group of teenagers decided to stay late and watch a horror movie marathon. As the night went on, they began to notice strange things happening around them. At first, it was just the usual creaking of an old building, but then they started hearing footsteps in the empty hallway. They also started seeing strange shadows moving in the corner of their eyes. Then the movie they were watching suddenly cut to a live feed of the theater itself. The teenagers were terrified and tried to leave, but as they made their way through the darkened theater, they started hearing voices whispering their names. They ran for the exit, but as they reached the door, it slammed shut and the lights came on. They were trapped, and they knew that whatever was in the theater with them was watching their every move. Our next story is going to take us to the archives of a local movie theater, where a vintage reel of film was discovered. No one knew what the reel was or where it came from, but soon they would regret their curiosity. When the film was played, it showed a group of people being chased through a forest by a mysterious creature. The creature was never fully seen, but its presence was felt as it stalked its prey. The people on the film were screaming and running for their lives, but the creature was faster and stronger. One by one, they were captured and dragged into the darkness. The film was disturbing, to say the least, but no one could have predicted what would happen next. After the reel was finished, a strange mist began to fill the archives. The temperature dropped and the lights flickered. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw a movement in the mist. A shape began to form, and soon he was face to face with the creature from the film. It was tall and thin, with long, sharp claws and teeth. It lunged at him, and he screamed. The creature knocked him unconscious, and when he woke up, he was in a dark forest. He could hear the screams of the people from the film, and he knew that he was in grave danger. He ran for his life, but the forest seemed to be endless. He could feel the creature's hot breath on his neck, but he never looked back to see if it was following him. He didn't want to give it the satisfaction. Eventually, he came across a clearing and collapsed in exhaustion. He looked up to see the creature standing in front of him, its eyes gleaming with hunger. He closed his eyes and waited for the end, but it never came. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the archives. The film reel was gone, and the only evidence that anything had happened was a single claw mark on his arm. Those were just a few of the many haunted reels that lie dormant in the archives of horrifying cinema. Who knows what other horrors may be lurking in the shadows waiting to be discovered? Do you have a story of a haunted movie theater or film that you would like to share with us? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.